What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Ikon, and we here on 95 South Podcast once again. First and foremost, I want to thank God for this opportunity because without Him, it would be no us to be able to come on here to have these great interviews, to be able to have these great conversations. And you know what I'm saying? And I always, you know what I'm saying, my pleasure to introduce my co-host, right hand man, you know what I'm saying, your baby mama's favorite host, my man King Jacob. What's going on, Doc?
Man, what's going on, people? Thanks for tuning in once again, man. Glad to be in the land of living, man. My saying is, you wake up, you got a chance and a choice.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. So basically, so before we get into who we have on here today, I just need to make a quick couple of service announcements. That we are sponsored by or affiliated with Village Global Network, 810 Studios, our Roku channel, She Real Radio, and you'll see a plethora of other different radio stations. We got like 9 radio stations that we affiliated with whatever. So I will have those going across the screen throughout the episode, and I may announce them a few throughout the episode so people know who we are affiliated with. So getting into the actual interview itself. So today we have a different type of guest, but we have a special guest. This young man is actually running for mayor in New London, Connecticut, and basically we wanted to have him on here to, we about to get into political season in a lot of cities and a lot of states around the country. So we wanted to have this man on here because he is a man of many hats. I'm gonna let him get into his story a little bit more. And he has a unique name, or whatever. I was telling him before the show. He has actually a unique name, but we kind of laughed about it. And his name is Leon Eddie Long. I said if you just say Leon Long, it sounds like a South Baptist preacher. But welcome Leon Eddie Long to the show.
Well, thank you guys very, very, very much for having me. It is an honor. I've heard a lot about your podcast, and so I'm glad to finally get a chance to join you guys. Um, and yes, I do have a very unique name, but my middle name is how I got my nickname. So when I was a kid, just to start with that, when I was a kid, I had a widow's peak. If we all remember Eddie Munster from the Munsters, and my sister and my mom nicknamed me Eddie Munster, and that just kind of stuck. And we see that the widow's peak is gone, but the nickname is still there. So that's where the name Eddie comes from for me. My first name is Leon. Yeah, that's my
Oh,
dad's name.
okay, okay, that's a great story. Great story. So basically, this before we get into questions, because I know my partner, he probably slobbering at the mouth, ready to ask some questions or whatever, because he's a big political guy. So before we get into the questions, let's first get into your background so people understand who you are as Leon Long, and because I know you wear many hats. Basically, you are promotions manager or marketing manager for the third largest media company in America, Cumulus Media, and you also bartend. So what I mean, that alone, I know it takes a lot of your time. So kind of get into your story, how you get to this point where you actually, at this point now where you actually running for mayor.
Sure. So yeah, I do wear many hats. Thank goodness I have a big old head for them to all fit on. My main job, my profession is in radio, like you mentioned. I do work for Cumulus Media. Um, Cumulus Media New London is the market in Cumulus Media that I work for. So that is the cluster of radio stations um, in our state, and I've worked for them for almost 8 years now. And I was recently promoted to promotions director, like you mentioned. So I organize our events and arrange all of our events. If you want the radio station to be present at one of your events, it would be me that you deal with once a contract is signed, etc. I don't do sales. Um, and so it's fun, and there's also the social media aspect to it as well. So working in radio keeps me in touch with people. I'm always in crowds of people listening and hearing, which is one of my favorite parts of my job. But I am a creative person. I went to school for graphic design and advertising, and so um, I got to study advertising a lot, and that is one of my biggest passions. And so working in radio allows me to explore that, and I can still do graphic design at my daily job in radio. So I can do both. I can be out there with people, but I can also be in the office and doing what I love, which is creating. Um, and so another thing I do that keeps me in the crowds is bartend. I've been bartending for probably 10 years now, I think, maybe a little more. Uh, and I've always loved it. I always love that it keeps me very in tune with the community. And it's a great opportunity to, or it creates great opportunities to help the community. When I first started bartending, I can remember, if you guys remember when there was the ALS challenge, where people were dumping buckets of ice water on everybody's heads, raise
Mm.
awareness for the ALS sickness.
Right.
And so we, at the bar that I worked at, that was going around. And I remember one of our, not even a regular, or a regular of ours came in to say that their family member, not them, their family member was suffering from that ailment, and they needed money for bills. And I remember seeing the owner of the bar go, "Oh, well, we'll just do a fundraiser." So that was that. So I hastily put together a fundraiser for us, and we had this event. I think it was 2 weeks later, and we raised like $1,300, $1,500, something like that. Uh, and it was great because I remember watching, people come in who didn't know that we were doing this, uh, say, "Oh, I didn't realize that was happening." They go over, give a little money, come back, and do their thing at the bar. And it just showed me, how it was nice. It was proof that there was good in the community. I needed to see that at that time. And so that always stuck with me because, going back to politics, if you want a politician to make change, it's going to take time. Usually there's committees to go through. There's a lot of processes. There's a lot of, like I said, committees. Then they want to sign something, amend it, bring it back to committee. And it can be a process. And sometimes you just want to get the job done. Not cut corners, not go by the book, but just there's got to be, you just want to get the job done. And that's what working in bars really taught me in New London, in that community, in our community. So that's always been with me, and I am an art-minded person, and so there was an opportunity. I had arranged for a mural competition at our radio station, and one of the entrants let me know that there was an arts council being formed in our city, and asked me if I would be a part of that effort, in the steering committee to start an arts council in our city, which I thought was a very important thing, and really needed to be done in a city like New London, where art is so important to us and our economy and our culture and our identity. So I was happy to do it. So I can say I'm a charter member of the New London Arts Council, and now I'm currently one of its co-chairs. We've been plugging away at it, and it led to some other things too, other opportunities working in the Arts Council, in a city like New London. Connects you to a lot of things very easily. And that's really where the politics started. First, it was an effort to enhance our arts community. A lot of my peers, a lot of my friends were in that arts community. I was happy to be a part of something like forming an arts council to give them more opportunities, to give them more chances at resources. And, now that there's been a formation of an arts council, we have state recognition, and something called a cultural district has been formed in our city. The Arts Council is a prerequisite for that. Now that we have the Arts Council, we're able to have a cultural district, which is something that is moneyed, that has official recognition from the state, gives much more visibility to local entities like restaurants, art museums, galleries, etc. And that's really important to me because if you are talking about New London, particularly New London's economy and identity, then you're talking about art. And so that's really where my start is with my work in the community in New London, and that's really how I got to this point now.
Okay. Go ahead, Jacob.
So, um, Mr. Leon Eddie Long, New London, Connecticut, mayor candidate elect.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, welcome. So, want to start off with what and why made you want to get into a political forum, and why is it so important to you to be a part of the political forum that can really change lives and impact the youth?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the youth, because if you're asking me about why I'm running, the youth is going to come up. Uh, I am a father of two. My daughter is 12. My son will be 10 in 10 days. Um, and so I was just explaining to somebody today what drives me, what my compass is when I make decisions, and it's my kids. I feel like if I make moves in the community and make changes in the community that would make it better for them, then it'll also be better for me, for people like you, for for everybody, for everybody. And so they really drive me. And when we talk about why I got into politics here in New London, it's because I saw a lot of things that I wished were happening in the city that weren't. Um, Not necessarily as it pertains to my kids or the youth, but there we'll get to that. But more pressing for me was the identity of our city here in New London as a arts and culture hub. Um, in recent years, we've seen that community shrink. Um, Now the artists are still active and present, um, a good portion of them, but we've seen some galleries close. So the physical space is actually getting smaller. New London boasts a lot of great art galleries. And to see some of them be closed was sad. Um, and it's part of a sort of a trend. In New London, businesses come and go. And it pains me to say that, but what I'm craving is consistency. An economy that um, invites folks in because we've fostered an environment of consistency, something that um, show folks that if they open a business here, that they'll last. Um, and I feel like in a city like New London, a lot of our shop fronts happen to be empty. And that is a problem that has plagued our city for a very long time. And I'm just fed up with it. I'm just fed up with it. It's all any of us talk about. Uh, and there hasn't been any,
Hmm.
what I can tell, I haven't really seen any serious effort to fill those spaces. We have tons of rhetoric and we have tons of band aids, but that doesn't help. Talking doesn't help. Band aids don't help. I want structural change. I want us to change the way we do business. Um, because of the empty shop fronts, I believe that creates hesitation for businesses to take a chance on New London. But I have to give credit to the many businesses that have been springing up here in New London. There have been lots of grants going around. Of course, there's never a shortage of um, entrepreneurial minded people, and God bless them that they want to take a chance on our city. That's all I could ask, is that somebody would take a chance on our city. So we're very thankful to them. But at the same time, there's plenty of spaces downtown that need to be filled. And that really is one of the main things that drives me. And just to say, one more thing about that, we have enough empty spaces that it should warrant another look at how we approach it, and serious effort should be given to reforming the ways we have tried to fill those spaces, because they're not working. Um, and so that is a lot of what I intend to focus on in my rhetoric during the campaign. And certainly when I win, I would like to talk a lot more about those spaces. Um, and then there are
Okay. Okay.
other things as well, like housing and problems with addiction in the city. But if you want a chance to chew on some of what I just said, go for it.
Well, before
Right,
Jacob,
right,
before
right. So, uh,
you on,
d-
before
go
you,
ahead.
I wanted to touch on something real quick. When you talk about the businesses, and the one thing that I realized being a new business owner myself is the grants
Yeah.
that especially for the minority black business owners, a lot of or minority business owners or whatever, they don't know about these grants, or they feel like they can't get this money. And what where do you feel like you would fit in as far as maybe encouraging or getting with some of these minority businesses or people that are struggling, that either about to close their doors or trying
Right.
to open doors? What do you feel like you can come in to help out, especially due to the fact that you do have a media company, that you work for a media company that could put the word out to kind of put help other people, educate people on this type of thing?
That's a great question because there's a lot of different ways to approach some of those issues you brought up. So first, here in New London, we have a couple of different examples of grant programs. And the first thing I would actually have to say is to bring it back to art. There is something in our region called the Southeastern Connecticut Cultural Coalition, and they help a lot with grants, connecting people to grants. And they also have um, a program that they offer that helps people with grants to write them that don't have any familiarity with how to do that. That's the first point. The second point is in our area, we have a Women's Business Development Council. And the Women's Business Development Council is exactly what it sounds like, but they have offered a lot of grants to all different types of businesses, not just women owned. Um, and so when I see those two things, I think about what else can we use or what else can benefit from that type of approach. So when we think about Black business owners of color, we think about um, the things that they don't have access to or that they're not aware of that are there for them, like you brought up. And so I would like to tap into some of that effort where we have find people that would be willing to um, help those types of businesses navigate the grant system, and also get a little more bold about our effort to target business owners of color with grant programs and opportunities, just as we have with women. You know, there can also be something like that. A Black Business Development Council doesn't sound that nuts to me. It sounds like a great idea. And in fact, we have a Black Business Association here in London. And I'm happy to bring that up because I am running as a Green Party candidate, and my fellow I like to say running mate, even though it isn't exactly accurate, Shanice Austin is running for city council as a Green Party candidate. Shanice comes from finance, that's her background, and she is involved with the Black Business Association. And you start to see these things, connecting in effort to help Black business owners understand the grants available to them and how to fill out those grants. Something I struggle with. Everybody struggles with that.
Mm.
An effort that is seriously focused on on a specific segment. Like I said, we have a Women's Business Development Council. The idea that there could be a council or a real effort devoted to Black business is a great idea, and we have a Black Business Association. So I think that linking these efforts together would be a big help. And one more thing about Black businesses. Um, in COVID, with everybody staying home, we saw across the board an uptick in businesses that were run from home, Etsy pages and selling things from home, things like that. And so those businesses are still around, a lot of them, and they've developed into, something with staying power that's popular, that has a following. And so I credit my fellow candidate Shanice with this idea that you would seek out those businesses that are operated in people's homes and see what they need to get into a shop front and then get them there. And we've seen here in New London, a lot of those businesses are Black owned. They are places that do hair and nails. There's lots of those going around. And so we'd like to get them out of their homes and into the downtown area where there's people walking they can have a bigger customer base. So a lot of different ways to approach the issue of Black businesses and their access to grants. But I'd certainly like to help them do that.
Okay. Go ahead, Jacob.
Okay, so I do thank you for that dialogue. Wonderful, information to put your expertise on it and to be very in detail. Thank you for that.
Sure.
But what I do want, like, you did say something about structure culture in the structure of what you want to do and what you want to bring, to what we call community development. And so, in the last 10 years, I lived in DC for about 12 years, and
Okay.
so and I'm back in the Carolinas. So I had some of my cousins to visit me last summer, and I was just asking about DC. They was talking about the gentrification. That was like,
Yes.
it ain't chocolate no more. It's now vanilla swirl. So and with
Yeah.
that being said, man, yeah, yeah, yeah. So with that being said, the gentrification has hurt a lot of Black business owners, um, and a lot of people through the gentrification, through the subsidized housing that they had, where it was modern day Black families still there, and people know people way back from like the great grandmama fed this grandmama kids, and everybody was just family connected. And
Hmm.
so with the gentrification, a lot of people have been forced to move out to the suburbs. So how do you think that you can clean up what the gentrification has broken when it comes to, you know, um, the culturized people and how they feel about, the local government just pushing them out when they feel like they built structure amongst one another?
Oh, I love that question. So I hear you. And let me start with gentrification is plaguing New London, Connecticut as well. Uh, this is not my first race. I ran in the previous election as a city council candidate. And I like to boast about one of my favorite moments from that campaign, although I lost. Uh, in a debate, I brought up gentrification. And in a debate, you can offer a rebuttal, and if you'd like to respond to something somebody says to you. And it was a pretty easygoing debate. Nobody asked to use a rebuttal, except for one sitting city councilor when I brought up gentrification. He brought up his opportunity to rebut what I said so that he could say, this isn't about gentrification. But it is. He got defensive because it is. Um, and so, ways to combat that. Well, it is a nationwide problem, and so is gerrymandering. We can get into that maybe in another episode. But keeping it local here in New London, yes, gentrification is a problem. Yes, there are things in place now that could continue the problem that gentrification brings if we don't address it. Um, and so, in New London, at least, I can say the first thing that I would do to combat gentrification is to have a city government that reflects our community. And I don't mean nationality wise or, I, we have a diverse city council in New London in terms of nationality, but I want a diversity of ideas. It's not enough that some of our city councilors are Black and some of them are Hispanic. That's fantastic. But you know what? This is New London. We're a diverse city. Our city council should look like that. But the ideas that come from that city council don't reflect our community. Um, they're not hearing all sides. And so I think I know why. The city council is, of course, elected by residents of New London. So they're all, residents of New London, and they should hold that position. But they don't have all the power. Um, city governments are made up of agencies, departments, and those agencies and departments are run by people that are installed by the mayor. And New London, like many cities, has a charter that says that if you are to run our city departments and agencies, you should live in New London. There's very clear language about this. But in New London, our mayor has appointed a few people to some pretty important positions that don't live in New London. They could love New London, they could work in New London, but they have to live here, and they don't. And so this isn't a knock on their ability to make decisions, not necessarily a knock on their creativity or their imagination, but I want to remind folks what it looks like for our mayor to install people into positions of power that shouldn't have those positions of power. It looks like he's creating loyalty because you both don't live in New London. If I become mayor of New London and I give you both a job and you know damn well you shouldn't have that job, but I'm the one who gave it to you, how often will you buck me? How often will you tell me no? Because I gave you your job and I'm also the only reason you have it in the first or can have it, or you know what I'm saying? It creates loyalty. It's not a good
Right.
look. He's surrounded himself with people who owe their job to him. So he won't get a lot of pushback. Now, you couple that with a one party rule in our city government, which is to say, and nothing against a single Democrat, this is just facts. He is a Democrat, and the entire city council is a Democrat. And so, not a lot of room for disagreement there. Feels weird for them to not be in lockstep with their leader. And so, why is that important? If you have a person in power who is surrounded with people he's appointed that are loyal to him, and also surrounded by people who are supposed to be keeping him in check but share a party affiliation with him, it feels like my way or the highway. And if you have that type of a support system, we'll call it, I'm putting up quotes for people who aren't watching the video. If you want to have that kind of support system around you, then, like I said, a lot of new ideas don't get in, and it starts to be hard. It starts to feel like for the people who haven't voted for him, that their opinion will never matter, that he's not there for them. And that is reflected in numbers. In London, in the last two elections, less than 20% of our registered voters came out to vote. Less than 20%. So there is 80%. Wow. Yes. Wow. So 80% or more of our registered voters feel like their opinion doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? And so if I can become the mayor and right the wrong and install people from this city into these positions of decision making, into these decision making positions, then our policies would start to reflect more what the neighborhoods really need. And to go back to gentrification, what those neighborhoods really need is more opportunities for the Black and brown residents that live in them to come up. Because when you are inviting very expensive apartments into the city, I'm sorry, introducing very expensive apartments into the city, which is what our mayor's done, you raise everybody's rent. And that's where we're at now. So gentrification is real. It's a national problem. And so that means that it's a problem in New London. And that is the answer to your question. That's my answer to your question. I would install a city government by the charter that reflects our community, because they are members of our community and they are the best ones to determine what it is that the citizens who are being harmed by gentrification need, because they are the citizens being harmed by gentrification.
Okay. So now this next question is a two-part question, and Mr. Mayor-elect, after you answer, I want my business partner Ikon E to chime in on now. Once elected mayor, um, when going and seeing what the education system is like in depth, having meetings with the superintendent of education, and seeing if they are using the STEM program, science, technology, economics, and math. And If they're not, how would you use your position as the mayor to leverage for the education system to use the STEM program more? Now, the second part to this question is, um, when becoming mayor, what are some things that you want to do with the zoning code that you haven't seen done in the last 10, 12, 15, 20 years? How can you make the zoning code more effective, as a mayor? And once making it more effective, will this benefit citizens as a whole? And, because once you benefit citizens as a whole, and and it's done in a structural way with a strategic plan where they can see it before their eyes and they understand it, then they rock with you, like, no matter what. So
Right.
so if you can chime in on those two questions for me, and just give me a little bit of clarity on your mission.
Sure. Well, starting with the education piece, um, I'm very proud of the school system that we have here in New London. But like many school systems, if you listen to the teachers, um, there are areas of opportunity, areas that need to be improved. Uh, I would try to be in lockstep with the Board of Education. Now, as a mayor, um, that can prove tricky. Managing what it is that I would be in charge of as mayor, and working with the city agencies in the municipality makes it a little tricky to be in lockstep with the Board of Education, but I would certainly try. Uh, because although they're different funding systems, um, and money, two different sources of money, it's important for the municipality that the school system exists in to, again, use that phrase, be in lockstep, because we're pooling from the same residents, from the same interests. It's imperative that the city government backs up whatever it is the school system determines it needs. And well, I shouldn't say school system, I should say Board of Education. Um,
Mhm.
and so at least keeping in touch regularly with the president of the Board of Education, um, it is something that I would really encourage, because the needs of the school change, and so the best chance I have to make sure that they have what they need is to really trust in and listen to the Board of Education, um, because it is obviously their sole purpose to make sure that the school system runs properly and has everything it needs. Um, And then as for zoning, the planning and zoning in New London is a very funny issue, because everybody has ideas on how to fix our issue of empty buildings. Um, but in the community, everybody has ideas, but it's of course up to the city government to do something about it. And it's a bit go back to a point I made before. Without a lot of room for new ideas to get into city government, there's stagnation and complacency, and it's hard for things to get done. So the first thing um, is to make it known that we are open up to new ideas on ways to, positively uh, impact our biggest issue, which is the empty shop fronts. Um, to give an example, we have a historic district. Our downtown area, our main strip downtown, is also a historic district. Um, and so that comes with it a lot of regulations and things you wouldn't really necessarily consider right away when you're looking to change and grow. Um, and so one of those regulations in zoning is that the first floor of this part of the city on all properties is commercial, not residential. So it doesn't seem like something that's that big of a deal. It seems like it's kind of par for the course. Uh, but there has been a new apartment building erected downtown, and the first floor is going to be residential. And the idea is that you don't want to break up the visitors' pathway of shopping and enjoying the city with residential. So that was a contentious issue, and the decision was made to go ahead and make it residential. So some people are really not happy about the appearance of that building and the function of it. And so, second thing I would do is stick to the rules already in place where they work, and then figure out what doesn't work and change those. And again, to figure out what rules those are, it's about listening to those in government who are tasked with paying attention to those things. That is the role of the mayor, to not so much micromanage the day-to-day operations of the city, which is something we see a lot now, but rather to install the right people, which means people from New London, to oversee these entities, these agencies, these departments, uh, and try your hardest to work with them and include them in some of your decision making processes so that you can get it right. Because I don't know every damn thing, and it's okay to admit that, but that's why you want to install those people around you that can give you that information and help you along in those processes. But yes, I'm glad you asked about zoning in New London, because it is something that comes up pretty frequently.
Okay, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Icon.
So basically, I also understand that you have I guess a transportation issue also in the city, as far as not having enough of it for people to necessarily get around. So is that meaning? And then also, well, before I get to that part, as far as that's concerned, because I used to stay in Clayton County in Atlanta, and that's South Atlanta, South
Hmm.
Atlanta. And when I stayed in the area, and I'm not gonna lie, when I first moved there, like we talked earlier, I came from a small city in North Carolina. I stayed in Florida, but I never really understood. I never knew anything about the transit system, like the bus system, how it worked, how it operated. And at the time, they voted it out of that area because people didn't show up for the town meetings to vote. So they ended up getting rid of it. But then, like 2 or 3 years later, they had to bring it back because it was causing too many issues, especially probably for that little old grandmother who probably had to get to a doctor's appointment or go get a medication or whatever the case may be. And Atlanta's gotten so big, you still have those type of issues of people getting around at doctor's appointments and stuff, even though they have transportation companies that kind of service that particular thing. So for
Right.
you, is it about you just implementing and throwing money behind and putting money behind a transportation system? Is it a voting process? How would it work in your situation?
Well, there is there is a knee-jerk reaction to throw money at every problem, isn't there? And sometimes that's just what the doctor ordered, and other times a more creative approach is needed. Um, it sounds a little corny, but I love new ideas. I really do, because if somebody speaks up and offers an idea, a solution to a problem, it isn't out of left field. You've got to trust that they've thought about it, and that is the best they came up with the issue at hand, and you want to try to explore it, because it's probably going to work. If you're asking interested people in the problem that you're having. And when it comes to transportation, sure, in New London, we are a walkable community. So transportation is a very big issue in New London. We like to think that we are a comfortably walkable community. There was a recent effort to put more bike lanes. I have to say, the incumbent mayor that I'm running against, he himself is an avid bike rider. It's prominent in New London. I have been a non-driving citizen in New London for the last several years. I recently got my license again, but I benefited from what's been done in New London to make us a walkable community. But when it comes to the issues of public transportation, sure. I mean, because New London is configured in such a way that there's a downtown area where there's a lot of commerce and business, right? And then more residential on the outside. So if you're looking to get into the city and you don't have a car, that's it. That's the problem you're talking about. On the other hand, whether you live downtown or just outside of downtown, our hospital is not that close. I mean, it's comfortable enough. If you're lucky enough to be able to drive to the hospital, then it's really not that bad. But realistically speaking, somebody with an ailment that doesn't have a car. If you live downtown, I mean, it's a really big deal. And so, just as I would with, um, with city agencies, government departments, you want to sit with the staff, not the heads, the staff, if you can, of these organizations, businesses. Um, Here in New London, you know, there's lots of different departments that I would have to work with, but I would really like to hear from the people inside of the departments as well. Of course, day to day, I'm working with the heads of it, but the people in those departments making it go, they are who I want to hear from because they are the ones who know the issues. And then the issue of public transportation, that's the approach I would take. Not knowing all of the issues that befall us, I would certainly ask the staff first, and see what the general consensus is, and then I would probably work with the leadership to see how to make those changes that their staff is asking for happen.
So let me ask you another question. So basically, you said last election you ran for city council,
Right.
and if the numbers in the city itself was so low that the people came out to vote. What would be your approach, or what has been your approach so far? Is it more grassroots? Is it using the media? Is it what is your approach this time to really, because we noticed, like, if you watch like P Diddy, like years ago when he was really campaigning, when Barack Obama was running, and he did everything he could and was all over the place trying to get people out, even if it took him to go pick them up in buses and shuttle them to the voting booths and the whole thing. So, what would be your approach to really get people involved to come down and to vote this year?
Sure. So, first of all, I have to say I've been really encouraged because, um, as the campaign rolls on, you talk about this stuff more and more with people, and a lot of people, a lot more people than I thought already have expressed to me, I don't vote, I've never registered, I'm going to vote for you. Um, so the answer is to appeal to them honestly. That's what you have to do to make them understand that why they stay home. Number one, maybe they got to work. We get that. But I think that majority of the people who stay home do it on purpose because they really feel like, what's the point? They're not going to listen to me. I've tried over and over. They're just jaded. They're discouraged. And that really has to stop because I mentioned gerrymandering earlier. The only way to combat that is to overwhelm the system. Sorry if that sounds radical. More of us have to engage and vote and participate. They can manipulate those districts. They can manipulate the game because the game we're giving them, the board we're giving them, is so small and easy for them to manage. If more of us were voting, it's harder for them to do that. So we have to overwhelm the system that they're operating in because they've totally taken over the system. And so in New London, it's not so extreme, the reasons why, but that point about them not being engaged um, in participating in our elections, that's really what I want to drill down on. And so honest messaging with them about how you understand that they're staying home, some of them on purpose, and why, I think is important. And reminding folks that, they do have the power. Uh, the mayor that I'm running against now is running for his third term. Third term. Um, and so he has a whole collection of endorsements and people that have supported him forever and all of this experience. But what has it got him? It's got him it's got him 1/5 of our voters. So all of the endorsements, all of the track record, he's not he's not getting anybody new on board. You know what I mean? So if he stays in power, my fear is that the electorate will shrink even more. People will become less engaged, and the power will stay right where it is because the little people that are engaged will keep giving it to them. So my job now as a candidate is to appeal to those people who have not been engaged because just some simple math, we're talking about less than 20% of the people that are registered to vote are putting these people in power. If I can appeal to half of the people that have been staying home, I will have twice as much support as the people in power now. That's how uneven it is. And so it is to express to them that I know why they're staying home and I know why. And then it is to uh, let me say this. The other candidate, Shanice Austin, who's running as a city councilor for the Green Party alongside me, um, had this great idea um, from one of the jobs she's had, where every once in a while the company will sit down, its leadership will sit down and basically come up with a new way to try to make its staff fall in love with the company again. Like what can we do to re-engage? Not not disingenuously. I mean, what can we is there something, is there a need that needs to be met? Is there something that our staff has been asking for we could change? Things like that. And I really like that, because if you take that to the level that I'm trying to be on, in municipality leadership, um, I believe that the way to get a city to fall in love with itself again, or a good way to do it, is to demonstrate for that city that it can do something it thought it couldn't do. And in New London,
Right.
two of those big things are filling empty shop fronts and re-engaging an electorate, because 80% of them are staying home. And so we have this long history, because of our mayor being in office for 2 terms. It feels like a long history of putting people in power in New London, again, that aren't from here, that don't live here. They shouldn't be in those positions, whether they, really love this city or not. It really doesn't make a difference to me. It's not right. They shouldn't be there. And so there's a steps to the process. Engaging with those folks that haven't been participating, making it clear that you'd like to put folks like them who are from here in positions of power to help make decisions for them, I think would go a long way, and hopefully would convince them, let's give him a shot because he wants to give us a shot.
Okay. So one
Okay.
last question for me. What's a must do and a must don't that you learned when you was running for city council that you can apply in this election?
That's a great question. And so um, I'll admit, it's a little embarrassing to admit, but I know that I didn't speak to as many people as I could have in the last election. I'll give myself a little bit of an out and say that in the last election, I joined pretty late. And so maybe it was a timing thing, but this time around, I jumped in a lot earlier. And I really would like to talk to more people, those pockets of the community that I didn't speak to, the areas in the community I didn't go, because that's what I'm talking about when I say, 80% out of the electorate is not participating. That's not in one part of the town. They're sprinkled all through, so our town is only 6 square miles, and my job is to make sure that I appeal to more of those people, to find the ones that feel like their opinion doesn't matter, so that I can remind them that it does. Oh, and so yeah. So that was a long way to get to the answer. Talk to more people is the number one thing that I want to do this campaign, that I didn't do last campaign.
And the don't was I said the don't do it all. Like people like, ooh, can't believe I did that. What was that
Oh,
thing?
you want to hear something? That's it. So this campaign, I want to get a lot more creative with ways to find those people. And I can give you an example. I had this idea where, again, our city is 6 square miles, not huge. Okay. So my thought was to break it up into, little sections, um, and just find like a little restaurant or a public enough place, and advertise that I'll be there and invite people just from that part of the town, because you can't get the whole city to come to every event. So if you lay out lay out a list of events that people can look to down the calendar and know they're coming, and say, oh well, he's going to be by the beach on this day, and he's going to be downtown this day, and he's going to be over by the residential side of New London that day, and he'll be at Hodges Square, which is where I live in New London this day, which is kind of off the beaten path. those types of things. So I feel like that's a little bit more of an effective way. So that's something I want to do that I didn't do last time. Uh, if I'm answering the question right, and certainly the don't is limit myself on who I'm going to talk to. I really would like. It sounds crazy, but I'd really like to engage everybody in the city because I mean, some people are just not paying attention, and you can't really blame them. They think their opinion doesn't matter.
Okay. Go ahead, Jacob.
Oh, you're muted, Jacob.
You
Sorry.
muted.
Oh, sorry about that, gentlemen. So, a couple questions for you. Once elected, what is your strategy to get people to come out to city council meetings, county council meetings, and school board meetings?
Mm.
And that next question is, once elected, how important is will it be for you to explain people that they need to become a member of your local chamber of commerce and find out the bullet points that they need for their business to make their business thrive, and just to learn out what's going on, cause things change with the your local chamber of commerce all the time. There's always new city grants coming in. There's new county grants coming in. There's new education grants coming in. There's new agriculture grants coming in. There's new business grants coming in. All the above. So you know, how would how would you kind of strategize on that to let these citizens understand that you've been missing out on tons of information and tons of ways that you can make your business thrive and achieve greatness within your business.
Um, so forums. I love forums. I love akin to like a town hall, like where you invite the folks in. That isn't common. I mean, I'm not running for US Senate, and the reason that a town hall happens is because they leave the area they're representing for long periods of time and they go work in Washington. So they make the most of their time home and they have these kind of town halls. And I think that's great. That's the way the system has to work. They've got to go to Washington. So when they come home, they have these town halls. I don't see why an incumbent mayor can't have something like that while he's in office. What are you afraid of? Let me hear the heat too. I'm not looking to put people in power that won't challenge me. I, in fact, am looking to put people in power that will challenge me because they'll be from here and they're all just trying to do what's right by the community. I'm going to miss some things. Maybe I'll have an approach for a certain part of town and somebody who's from that area says, you might want to do that this way. Okay, great. If that's going to make it work, I'm glad you gave me that input. I'm not so cocky that I don't take criticism. That's not how things work. Um, so to encourage people to go to those meetings, um, it starts with the campaign, really showing people that I think if you haven't been engaged, I don't believe that you should think your opinion doesn't matter. I really want you to get back into thinking that you're a part of this city too. And then continue that on by inviting them into City Hall. It's our house. I like to call City Hall our house. The mayor's office is in it, but it ain't his house. It's our house. If I'm sitting in the big chair, that's my
Mhm.
office, but this house is your house. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? And
right.
so that would be my messaging around something like that to invite people into not just meetings with me or municipal meetings, but encourage them to really see the importance of weighing in, not just once with a vote, but after that. You brought up Barack Obama, who I love and adore, and I would have voted for him a third time if I was allowed to. But in all seriousness, we saw one thing that happened with him. His star power was so great. We had so much faith in him, and we were so proud of him. And after the election, some of us checked out. We thought, man, we did it. Woo!
Oh,
I thought that was never going to happen. We put him in power. He's there, and now let him take care of it. But he needs us. He still needs us. No president can do it alone. Certainly, no mayor can do it alone. So I would really try to remind folks all along the way that I want to hear their opinion because it's important and it makes things better when it comes to something like a school board meeting, etc. And then you asked a question about getting people to engage. I come from marketing. There are very basic rules to marketing that apply to other things in life as well. And one fun one is in marketing, in visual ads, you want to show faces. You want to see faces. When people are scrolling on the internet, or on social media, it is the ones, the posts with faces that get the most engagement. They get the stops, and people will look at them. They'll explore them more. And so, why am I saying that? Because it's basic marketing. Um, if you want folks to engage in something like a school board meeting, don't make the school tell them to do it. Make videos with the youth asking for the grown-ups in the community to engage. The students are the ones we're there for, right? And we make all the decisions for the money for them. But just like I'm asking for people who live in New London to be in the city government to make decisions for the city, give the students more of a voice. Just like I brought up staff in a company, or members, or staff in an agency in the city government. Talk to them. They're doing the work. They're on the quote unquote front lines. They know. And then it's up to the leadership to communicate it to the mayor for change, or communicate it to the superintendent. Give the students more power. Even if it is just, in marketing campaigns to get folks to engage in something like those meetings. But I think we can ask a lot more of our students, and not feel bad about it, because they'll be happy to do it. They want their voice to be heard. I did a lot of work with students in schools last year in some art programs, and one young man was very vocal with us about how he felt their opinion doesn't matter because they're students. And I thought, that's heartbreaking, because it's all about you guys.
That's right. Icon, that's all I have, man.
Mm.
Well, sir, I'm going to thank you for coming on. I do want to ask one question though. With you being a bartender, like, you feel like you're gonna be safe or be okay to continue bartending after? Because I know it's gonna be some people that's gonna be tap you on the shoulder, like, listen, after you give me my beer, my drink, let me ask you about this, that, and the third. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a great question. So I've been getting that question a lot. And a lot of people's consensus is you should still bartend one night a week. And that's fun to entertain now. And I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but in all fairness, I don't know that the time would allow it. And if I determine right away, that that's not something that I can do, then I won't. But
Yeah.
it's a fun concept, because you're exactly correct. It would be a lot of, yeah, one Corona, please, and then I give them the beer, and they're like, hey, while I have you, I want to talk about this pothole in front of my house. Like, well, I can't go fix it right now. I'm behind the bar. But yeah. That is a funny concept. Yeah.
Does mayors get like security to go around with? How did that work in a city like yours? Do y'all get security?
We don't get security. We get a nice vehicle that we can drive. I can tell you that the office is really nice, but no, we don't get security.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so will you still be able to work for Cumulus and do the mayor thing at the same time?
No, unfortunately not. So I really do love my job a lot. um, but this is something, we're, you know, we're all fans of Brother John Lewis, all of us. My dad is definitely included in that group. Um, and him and I talk about John Lewis all the time and his legacy and the importance of what? Good trouble. And, this is the fight. There's changes that need to be made. And I do love my job, but in reality, I see a real high list of challenges to be addressed. And so it's time to maybe step away from that and make some good trouble. And if I'm not lucky enough to win, of course, I'm going to be happy to stay in radio. But yeah, that's the reality. If I become the mayor, I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. It's going to be all hands on deck for sure, because I've got some serious plans.
Okay. Well, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. Before we leave, everybody follow us at on Instagram at Ikon E19 and King Jacob 1974. And Mayor, we're gonna ask you to let everybody know where they can follow you at and ask any questions or keep up with your campaign.
Sure. Well, I wanted to give one little. I just wanted to make one little thing a notice here. So this pin that I'm wearing right here, this pin, I know you can't see it, but on this pin is a picture of George Wallace. This is an actual George Wallace for president campaign pin. And for the listeners who aren't aware, George Wallace is the first candidate to run for governor in America that actually ran on segregation after segregation was ended. George Wallace was a terrible person. But I wear this pin sometimes because it was designed by and made by somebody who never wanted to see people who look like me or people who look like you guys vote, let alone run. And I love to wear this to campaign events when I'm running because it's proof that, you know, there's been progress made. And it's just a little anecdote I wanted to share with you guys. But of course, there's still a lot of work to do for us to really feel like we live in an equal society. All that being said, you can find me on Instagram at longshot3. It's longshot, one word, .3. And my campaign website, where you can find a lot more information about me, about some of the positions that I have. Of course, there's donating on there and some pictures of my beautiful kids, is leon4newlondon.com. That's Leon, the number 4, newlondon.com.
Okay. So one last question.
Yeah.
When you do win, because I feel like, you know, you definitely have a great chance to win. Moving forward, is your goal to become to become a governor or a senator at some point?
You know, it isn't. I have no problem answering that. The answer is no. You know, because I'm happy in my life. You know what I mean? I love the work that I do in the community. And I feel like winning the mayorship is just a continuation of that. I just told somebody, I feel like it would just give me the ability to do more of what I've been trying to do, which sounds really great because New London is a great city and it has a lot to offer. And I want a chance to positively impact it. And I look forward to a chance to do that as mayor.
Okay. Sounds good.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. You gave us a lot of great answers, and you didn't, you know, shy away from anything. So we definitely appreciate that, or whatever. And you know, anytime you want to come back on, when you're closer to the election, we'll love to have you.
Sure.
Give us an update, you know, of course, on what's going on. And we wish you all the best.
I appreciate you guys. I'd love to be back on closer to the election. Sounds great. Let's put it on the books. And thank you very much for coming or for having me. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody coming on. Kimmy, Village Network, all our affiliates, 810 Studios, T-Real Radio, and all the radio stations involved in the 444 countries. So we appreciate everybody. Everybody have a blessed night.
Thank you, guys.
Got the good vibe, got the 1942 pouring in my cup. In the session real loud, good gas, yeah, you know we about to roll it up. Bring the bottles to the session, big tab, go ahead and just live it up.